ní òní tó adúpẹ́ fọlọ́wọ́ bá a rí pé àwọn tó kàn wọlé wọlé tó bá a gbọ́ wọlé tòkè láwọn ẹgbẹ́ ìgbọ̀ tó a fi tọ̀tọ̀ kí àwọn olùbánisọ̀rọ̀ wa lónìí tí wọ́n jẹ́ olùkọ́ àgbà ní àárín ìwádìí ìgbàwájà wọ́n dẹ̀ fi jẹ́ olùkọ́ àgbà tí ń ta nínú kan.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Udam, please let's remain Udam talk. So we have you done la what is that? I want to show.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen wa salatu wa salam ala Sayyidina wa Nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa ashabihi wa man nahaja manhajahum ila yawm ad-din. Amin. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Bismillah ala anfusina wa dinina. Bismillah ala ahlina wa amwalina. Bismillah ala kulli shay'in a'tana Rabbuna. Bismillah khayril asma'. Bismillah Rabbil ardi was sama'. Bismillah alladhi la yadurru ma'a ismihi idah. Bismillah iftatahna. وعلى الله توكلنا الله ربنا لا نشرك به أحدا نسألك اللهم خيرك من خيرك الذي لا يطيع غيرك عز جارك وجل ثناؤك ولا إله إلا أنت اجعلنا في عياذك وجوارك من كل سوء ومن الشيطان الرجيم أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن سيدنا محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
We give thanks to Allah the Almighty who has given us this opportunity of coming together. We glorify His names, we exalt His attributes, and we most humbly beseech Him to bestow His blessings upon the Holy Prophet Muhammad Allahumma salli wa sallim alayhi bi'adadi hammihi wa ghammihi wa uznihi li hadhihi al-umma wa anzil alayhi anwar rahmatika ila al-abad ya hayyu ya qayyum bi rahmatika nastaghith. The topic of our discourse tonight is Islam's response, or the Islamic response to global terrorism, misconception of jihad, and media propaganda. Beloved brothers and sisters in Islam, this topic is particularly relevant at this point in time because it captures what is happening all over the world. In almost every part of the world, Muslims are involved in one kind of conflict or another. Apart from that, it is also true that in non-Muslim communities, there are different dimensions of crisis, there are different kinds of conflicts, and people are beginning to ask what exactly is wrong with humanity. But in a large section of humanity, most people seem to believe that Islam is responsible for most of the problems happening in the world. Back home in Nigeria, we know what we have suffered and what we are still suffering from the scourge of that group that calls itself, the group we popularly call Boko Haram. They do not call themselves Boko Haram. They call themselves something else. They call themselves Jama'iyat al-Sunnah Litajdid. They call themselves the group that propagates the Sunnah and Reformation, so to say. This is what they say. And in almost every other part of the world, all the so-called Muslim fundamentalist groups also claim that Islam is what drives their actions. And the average Muslim is at the crossroads. He doesn't really know where to go. particularly after the 9/11 saga in 2001, Muslims have been faced with a lot of identity issues because that particular incident seemed to have redefined the identity of Muslims because it changed the way people perceived Islam and Muslims. It changed the way people see us, and it changed the way people relate with us. In different parts of the world, there were reprisal attacks. Muslims were stigmatized. Muslims were stereotyped because of what a group did in the name of Islam. But I want to say categorically that it is very wrong for anybody to think or to say that Islam is responsible for what a particular group of Muslims does. Why do I say this? History has documented for us the gory tales of what people have done in the name of in the name of religion, in the name of Christianity, in the name of Hinduism, in the name of Buddhism, in the name of Sikhism, in the name of so many other religions. History has documented what people have done in the name of those religions. But it's unfortunate that the media, not the Nigerian media alone, not the Western media alone, we're talking of the media as an institution. The global media seems to have decided that Islam must be blamed for everything. You only hear of Islamic terrorism. Nobody talks about Christian terrorism. Nobody talks about Buddhist terrorism. Nobody talks about Hindu terrorism. It is only when you are talking about Islam that you now say that this one, that Islam should be used as an adjective for terrorism. But they seem to have forgotten, or they have deliberately decided to distort history. That in 1990, in August 10, 1990, when the Jewish daycare center in California was bombed, it was not bombed by Muslims, it was bombed by Christians. In 1995, when the Oklahoma State building was bombed, people shouted all over the world, the Muslims have come again. It was discovered later that the person who bombed it was a Christian, Timothy McVeigh. So many other crises. Back home in Uganda, you have the Lord's Resistance Army, led by Joseph Kony, who claims that he wants to establish a government based on Christian ideals. He has committed a lot of atrocities in the name of Christianity. But we know, every sincere person knows that he is actually pursuing a personal political agenda, that Christianity should not be blamed for what he has done. If we cannot blame Christianity for the bombing of the Jewish daycare center, if we cannot blame Christianity for the bombing of the 1996 Atlanta Olympics, if we cannot blame them for the Oklahoma State bombing, then nobody should blame Islam for what Muslims have done, because Christians too have done it. So many people have done it in Japan. The followers of Master Asoko Asahara, have committed a lot of atrocities in the name of Buddhism. The same thing, the Simrajit Khan is a Sikh guerrilla group that has created a lot of crises in India, in the Indian subcontinent, and nobody ever said that is Sikh terrorism. So in the same way, you do not say this is Islamic terrorism. If it is terrorism, it can never be Islamic, because Islam does not in any way promote terrorism. It is true that individuals on their own accord may decide to do things and smear the good names of Islam with that, but such individuals should be held responsible for those deeds, not Islam and not Muslims. This is because not Islams and not Muslims. This is because the history of religion reveals that man has a multiple dimension. Man has multiple inclinations. Man feels that he is independent and he can do and undo. And because man does not understand himself, he does not know his goal, he does not know where he's coming from, and he doesn't know where he is going to, man has continued to step upon the rights of fellow men. Man has continued to turn this space of existence into a cauldron of savagery. And that is the reason why everybody is talking about global insecurity today. You want to invest in a particular country, you are afraid there could be insurgency, there could be problems. But rather, we should reflect more on what is the cause of this insurgency. Nobody is talking about what causes terrorism. America wages war against terrorism. Britain wages war against terrorism. Everybody is talking about fighting terrorism. Nobody is talking about what is the cause of terrorism. What turns a man into a terrorist? What turns a man into a terrorist? It has nothing to do with the kind of education. The man, Dr. Goldstein, who bombed the mosque in Jerusalem, a Jew, a doctor who grew up in the United States of America, very intelligent, very wealthy. He did not go into that because he was a fool. He didn't go into that because he has any particular problem in terms of material survival. No. But there is something within religion we should understand, that every religion is inherently revolutionary. Everything within a particular religion can be exploited for alternative uses. Everything that it's, when you say God is one, Allah is one, that is a declaration. But I can decide to redefine that statement. I can say God is one, but there are lesser gods. I can decide to say God is one, but he has bequeathed his powers, his responsibilities to chosen individuals to do on his behalf. So I can redefine it, but that does not change the fact that God is an indivisible unity. It doesn't change it. So it is possible for people to distort the pristine teachings of a particular religion. It is possible for people to alter the age-old traditions of the forefathers. It is possible for people to attempt to read alternative meanings into sacred texts. It does not in any way smear or stain those sacred texts. Islam, Christianity, Judaism, all these religions have all been indicted in terrorism. But the bigger question we should be asking is, why should anybody become a terrorist in the first place? What is terrorism? Terrorism, simply put, terrorism is the act of using terror as a weapon, instilling terror, fear, apprehension in the hearts of people. When you are afraid, if we are afraid of being bombed, this lecture will not hold. If we are afraid of being attacked here, this lecture will not hold. If we are afraid, if we receive an information, for instance, that the Boko Haram people are coming to bomb this area, nobody's going to sleep. Nobody. So there can't be peace. There can be progress. There can be growth. There can be development anywhere there is terrorism. Yet, people are not addressing the causes of terrorism. People are not addressing the causes. We are just talking about, hey, he's a terrorist, he's a terrorist. Who is a terrorist? In fact, it was Professor Juliet Lodge that said that one man's freedom fighter is another man's terrorist. So most of the time, most of the groups we refer to as terrorists do not see themselves as terrorists. They call themselves revolutionaries. They call themselves freedom fighters. They call themselves so many names. But they refuse to be addressed as terrorists. Why do they refuse to be addressed as terrorists? Because their own perception, their own understanding of their activities does not agree with your own. And you'll see that a lot of indoctrination goes into it. Okay, look at a typical suicide bomber. Suicide bombing did not start with Muslims. It was the Japanese kamikaze warriors that started it during the Second World War. But over time it has developed, and these so-called Muslim groups have perfected its use. But do you see the stupidity in this? Somebody comes to you and tells you, you want to dine with the Holy Prophet Muhammad tomorrow. You want to eat sahur tomorrow morning with the Holy Prophet. And you believe him. If he knows the way to the Prophet, he should have gone before you. He should have gone before you. He tells you, you want to eat dinner with the Holy Prophet this night? And he said, yes, let me show you the way. And he gives you bomb to bomb yourself up, and to blow yourself into pieces, into shreds. And you say, that is God. That is Islam. You know what Allah says in the Quran? وَكَذَلِكَ كَتَبْنَا عَلَى بَنِي إِسْرَائِيلَ أَنَّ مَنْ قَتَلَ نَفْسًا بِغَيْرِ نَفْسٍ فَكَأَنَّمَا قَتَلَ النَّاسَ جَمِيعًا وَمَنْ أَحْيَاهَا فَكَأَنَّمَا أَحْيَا النَّاسَ جَمِيعًا. Allah says concerning, because the first crime in the history of humanity, the first crime committed was murder. And the person who committed it belonged to that family, which was the basic unit of design for humanity, the family of Adam alayhi salam. Qabil and Habil, Cain and Abel, were together. And the first sin, or the first sin committed by non-prophets, because Adam was a prophet. Allah says, O Muhammad, recite unto them the story of the two sons of Adam when both of them offered a sacrifice. And Allah accepted the sacrifice of one of them, and he did not accept the sacrifice of the other. Why? Why did he accept it? Why did he reject this? Nobody is also talking about that. Allah asked them, may offer sacrifice. The younger brother selected the best of his sheep, the best animal in his flock, used it as sacrifice, because he knows that Allah, who has commanded him to make a sacrifice, should be given something that is worthy of him. And the other one, the elder brother, who was a farmer, chose those farm produce that had become rotten, those that were no longer fit for consumption. Allah accepted the first one because he was sincere with him. And Allah rejected this one who treated Allah as an unworthy God. So Allah treated him as an unworthy servant. So Allah accepted this and rejected that. Why? Why did he do that? Because the primordial commandment. Hey, wait! The primordial commandment is أنفقوا في طيبات أنفقوا في سبيل الله. Is it طيب أنفقوا في سبيل الله أنفقوا من طيبات ما كسبتم أنفقوا من طيبات ما رزقناكم. Spend out of the best min طيبات, the good among your property. So when you are asked to أنفقوا من طيبات ما رزقناكم, spend out of the good, or spend the good out of what we have provided for you. Allah has provided so many things, but in our own estimation, some are good, some are not good. So those ones you consider to be good, spend it in the path of Allah. That is the commandment from the time of the first man. from the time of Adam alayhi salam. Here are his two children. One is presenting the good, the best in his flock. The other is presenting the most wretched in his collection. And Allah rejected one and accepted one. And that was the beginning of the first human weakness, envy. Envy set in. And Cain told his brother, I will kill you. He did not ask himself, why did Allah reject my own? He should have repented and he should have represented a sacrifice. But he said, why should Allah accept yours without accepting mine? I will kill you. And the brother said, what? The brother told him, Allah only accepts sacrifices, efforts, and struggles of those who are God-fearing. The brother told him that. He said, I will kill you. And the brother said, if you extend your hand to kill me, if you stretch forth your hand to kill me, I will not stretch forth my hand to kill you. I fear Allah, the Lord of the worlds. And he killed his brother. And guess what? We are all the descendants of that killer. So in every human being, you have that killer instinct. In every human being. You see, when I tell people, look here, there is something with you that Islam has modified. It is in every human being. During the last political dispensation in Nigeria, I asked, I think it was in one of your state meetings, when people said, this one is a killer. I said, look, all of you are killers. It is religion. It is your piety that has remolded you. There are times things happen and you feel like destroying everything. I asked, how many of you have not told himself or ourselves one day while watching our politicians on TV, how I wish a bomb is just thrown there and kills everybody. At one time or another, we have felt that way, that these people are destroying this nation. In the same way, in that kind of feeling, you get to understand the cause or one of the causes of terrorism. What turns people into terrorists? Our late Khalifa, Hazamiza Tahir Ahmad Rahmatullah alayhi, said in one of his writings that the world powers, the Western powers, the global powers have not stopped to ask themselves, what is that thing that is changing people into terrorists? When he was talking about, it was during the Operation Desert Storm in 1992, when Iraq invaded Kuwait. In one of those series of lectures contained in the Gulf Crisis and the New World Order, Huzur said, there was a time, during the time of Jamal Abdel Nasser, the Western media said he was a madman. Jamal Abdel Nasser, the Western media labeled him a madman. Then Anwar Sadat came, another madman. Then Muammar Gaddafi, another madman. Nobody ever stopped to ask, why are these people becoming mad? Saddam Hussein, another madman. Osama bin Laden, another madman. Nobody asked, what is that thing? What is that thing turning these people into madmen? That is one thing that is turning them into madmen, is the absence of absolute justice, particularly as exemplified in the creation of the state of Israel. The Palestinian crisis. The Palestinian crisis is one big example of injustice at a global level. From the beginning, the major actors knew that they wanted to deprive the Palestinians of their rights. They knew. But it's unfortunate that the Muslim World League, the Arab League, all the Muslims in the world have kept mute. Those who did not keep mute, those who did not understand alternative ways of redressing injustice, went into terrorism, saw violence as an alternative. Some years back, I wrote a study on the psychological connection between frustration and aggression. When a person is frustrated, when you are deprived of your right, when you are deprived of the basic means of sustenance, when you are being stripped of your identity, you turn into aggression. It could be verbal aggression, it could be physical aggression, but aggression is aggression. The root cause of most aggressive attitudes is to be sought in frustration. When you frustrate people, you bring out the negative tendencies in them. When you deprive people of their rights. So anywhere there is frustration, anywhere there is bad governance, anywhere there is corruption, you should expect crisis. You should expect conflicts. You should expect terrorism. Look at Nigeria. Look at Nigeria. In those days when we were still very young, armed robbers were killed at the bar beach. They faced the firing squad. Then there was a time in the history of Nigeria we were burning them alive. We will catch them and we burn them alive. There was a time in history that we organized vigilante groups and we would clobber them to death, beat them up until they died. Yet, armed robbery never stopped. Because the dynamics, the mechanism producing armed robbers is still very much alive within us. Look at the Matasene problem. Then we had the problems of the Bakassi boys, the MEND, the OPC, anywhere where there is injustice, anywhere where there is no social justice, anywhere where poverty is institutionalized, anywhere where you institutionalize corruption, anywhere where there is bad governance, expect people to react. It was John Locke that said that every man is a potential criminal. The average man is law-abiding when the society takes care of him, when he has opportunities of survival within his particular social space, he is law-abiding. But when the society deprives him of his right, when the society does not take care of him, when the society pushes him to the point of despair, and he feels there is no way of growing beyond this, he becomes an enemy of the society. He becomes an enemy of the society. People are suffering here and there, all over and you suddenly open the newspapers and you read during the last dispensation that the 2 wild animals in the Aso Rock, the 2 lions in the Aso Rock villas, and in the zoo, that 35 million has been budgeted for their feeding in a year. When you suddenly get to know that about 365 million had been budgeted for snacks and tea and biscuit throughout the year, you get crazy. You become mad in the literal sense of the word, unless you have religious piety within you that will now temper that down, that will now tame you and tells you Inna rahmatallah wasi'ah. The mercy of Allah is all-encompassing. Otherwise, you become mad. And some people have reacted negatively. And apart from that, there are some people, as you have seen, and as you are still seeing, as it is unfolding on a daily basis, there were those greedy politicians who benefited from those problems. But, politics is no longer attractive in Nigeria. It used to be attractive in those days. But people are now saying, no. Because the average politician knew at the time he was setting out that he was going into politics to steal. And that's why a former president could tell you corruption is not stealing. Or stealing is not corruption. So it shows that fundamentally there is something wrong with the mind. The mind, the brain, everything is corrupt. That's why you will say, to the whole world, you tell the whole world, stealing is not corruption. Brothers and sisters, when people who do not have the intellectual resources and the mental wherewithal to withstand such pressures, there will be when they hear such or they see such, they become mad. They become mad. They want to become, okay, if this is the only way of surviving, then let me do it. Let me go into it. If I die, it is only one bullet. I will die and I know I'm gone. After all, if I do not die, I have no reason for living in the first place. That is the truth. So people, the Palestinian crisis, the world powers connived together. The world powers connived to destroy the identity of the Palestinian Arabs. They knew that. They knew that was what they wanted to do from the outset. It's not a matter of, okay, we did this and we are now regretting it. No. There are so many theories concerning the beginning of the Palestinian crisis. But the most popular notion is that it began with the Balfour Declaration of 1918. Lord Balfour, who was the British Foreign Secretary in the Middle East, had made a declaration. Students of international politics know that Balfour Declaration does not hold any mandatory power. Yet it was enforced by the world powers. Because they knew it was part of a global conspiracy to snatch the lands of the Palestinians. It was a Jewish writer, Roger Garudi, himself a Jew, a Jewish journalist that wrote the book, Israel and the Issue of Political Zionism. He established that the Palestinian Arabs had been living in that land, on that land, because they are not pure Arabs, they were what you called Arabized Arabs, the Canaanites. They had been living there 3,000 years before the birth of Jesus Christ, alayhi salam. So it is not that they came to meet Jews there. The Jews came to meet them there. They had been there before the time of Jesus Christ, alayhi salam. Roger Garudi established this historical fact based on archaeological excavations and so many other historical sources. But the major actors knew what they wanted. It was a part of a larger conspiracy. The Jews had been banished into exile from the time of Nebuchadnezzar, and they had been spread all over the world, some into the Western Hemisphere and some into the Eastern Hemisphere. Those who were taken into the Western Hemisphere were called the Ashkenazim Jews. And those who were taken to the Eastern Hemisphere, like the Jews who lived in Medina, like the Jews you have in Afghanistan, and like the Jews in Kashmir, these were called the Sephardim or the Sephardic Jews. Those who lived in the East, if you read Islamic history, you know that even during the Abbasid and Umayyad period, particularly during the Abbasid, the Jews rose into prominence. they even had ministerial appointments under Muslim governments because they were treated as human beings. But the Jews that were taken to the Western world, those in England, in France, in Germany, in Italy, those were the Jews that were tortured. They were treated as subhumans. They were treated as if they were lesser than other human beings. And that's the reason at the beginning of the crusade in 1087 AD, Lord Godfrey of Bouillon said, we are starting a crusade. And the crusade then was to take the land of Jerusalem back from the Muslims. Lord Godfrey of Bouillon said, we should first make a sacrifice because we are beginning a good work. And what was the sacrifice he recommended? He said we should avenge the death of Christ. Because they believed that it was the Jews that killed Jesus Christ. They said we should kill Jews. And in France alone, they killed 3 million Jews. More than 3 million Jews were killed in France alone. The Jews never got treated that way in Muslim countries. And as a result of it, the Jews had this social cohesion among them. And the bond of fraternity, the bond of brotherhood became stronger, retaining the Jewish identity, and they rose into prominence. They became powerful men. And because of the ancient Jewish heresy of Kabbalah, the occultic tendencies had crept into Judaism. They carried this forward, started secret societies, and they continued to expand this until they became too powerful in Western societies. And Western societies now started thinking of how to relocate the Jews. But there was no way they could remove because they had already been entrenched. They started the banking industry. They dominated. They started the Reuters news agency. They started They were at the ends of affairs everywhere. As a result, the Western society itself became threatened. And what happened? As far back as 1805, Father Lewis Ways, who was the president of the Christian Society for the Conversion of Jews into Christianity, started making a campaign in England that they should establish a homeland for the Jews somewhere. At that time, they had not decided that it was going to be in Palestine. They had not decided at that time. But by 1840, the pressure had gathered momentum. The Jewish Orientalist Solomon Monk visited Muhammad Ali Pasha in Egypt and demanded certain concessions for Jews. And it was as a result of that Muhammad Ali Pasha gave them separate Jewish communities with their own curricula for the education of their children. And then during the 1897 Jewish convention, the first Zionist convention held in France, in Bâle, that was the beginning of the problem. Theodor Herzl, the leader of the Jewish community, made it clear that they had a definite agenda. That they would not say that we needed a Jewish state. They would just say we need a Jewish homeland. But we knew that in our hearts, it is a state. So when we are given a place, we are going to seize power from them. But they knew. So by 1918, when Lord Balfour was given his declaration, and what is the content of that declaration? His Majesty's government, I'm quoting verbatim now, His Majesty's government views with favor the establishment of a homeland for the Jews in Palestine without prejudice to the rights of the Palestinian citizens. But they could not continue that because Adolf Hitler became the ruler of Germany, and he wanted to eliminate the Jews. So they were distracted, and problems started. They had to start smuggling the Jews, smuggling them into Palestine. Our Khalifa, Hazrat Bashir bin Mahmud Ahmad radiallahu anhu, quickly drew the attention of the Muslim world to this. And he addressed the Jews, said, the Palestinians, don't sell lands to the British government. They want to take your land from you. You know the typical Amonile syndrome. The typical landowners, they are greedy. They did not accept the Khalifa of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They did not accept what the Uzur wrote a pamphlet, Al-Kufru Millatun Wahida. It was published in Arab newspapers. It was sent to them that all the Muslims should come together to defend the Muslims of Palestine. But the voice of truth was rejected. And see what they are experiencing. That is what they are experiencing now. They did not listen to the voice of wisdom, to the voice of reason. And even among themselves, there were those who drew their attention. Who drew their attention to this? A member of the House of Lords, in May 1923, when the issue came up again, that there was a need to establish a homeland. And you know what the man said? A Zionist home, my lords, means a Zionist government over a territory where 93% of the people are Arabs. I do not see how you can establish other than an Arab government without prejudice to the rights and aspirations of these people. But they did not accept what the man said. And you know, the struggle continued. But the cat was let out of the bag when Lord Balfour was leaving the Middle East as the British Foreign Secretary. In his memorandum, which he handed over to Lord Curzon, who succeeded him, it is clear there. He said, the four great powers are committed to Zionism. And Zionism, be it right or wrong, good or bad, is deep-rooted in age-long traditions of far profounder input than the wishes of the Arabs that occupy that territory. So they knew from the outset that they wanted to oppress, they wanted to treat the Palestinians unjustly. And they planted the seed of injustice. They planted the seed of injustice. And they continued. Because of the crisis of the Second World War, they had after the Second World War, in 1947, the United Nations came together. Of course, the League of Nations had collapsed. And in November 1947, the United Nations Declaration, the UN Declaration, or what do you call it? The UN, there's a technical term that is used for resolution, the UN resolution, thank you very much. United Nations Resolution 181 of November 1947. That is what is called the Partition Resolution. That is this resolution that should be seen as the only birth certificate of the State of Israel. That is the resolution that gave the fertile part of the land of Palestine to the Israelites and gave the non-fertile area to the original owners of the land. And that is why Elizabeth Monroe said that the Balfour Declaration is the greatest mistake in British imperial history. But they are not regretting it. Said it's the greatest mistake. And in fact, Arthur Koestler made it clearer. He said the Balfour Declaration is a document in which one nation solemnly promised to another nation the country of a third nation. This is a document in which I promise Abdul Rakib the house of Abdul Sabur. I am not the owner of that house. I now tell Abdul Sabur, I will give you, Abdul Rakib, I will give you Abdul Sabur's house. You see, it's as bad as that. And the United Nations Resolution 181, the partition resolution, created the State of Israel. The following year, in 1948, November 1948, the United Nations passed another resolution, Resolution 194, which stipulates that all the Palestinians who had been deprived of their properties in the occupied territory should be restored therein, or they should be compensated. The United Nations enforced Resolution 181 since 1947. Resolution 194 till this night has not been enforced. Because they knew that the plan was not to, they did not see them as anything. And if you read the writings of, the writing and speeches of Theodor Herzl, Golda Meir, and all these Zionist leaders, they didn't see the Palestinians as anything. They felt they were inferior. And that is exactly the way the Jews see the rest of the world. Brothers and sisters in Islam. That is why that Palestinian crisis has become an excuse for political actors to perpetrate crimes in the name of Islam. Ask the Mujahideen and the various jihadi groups. All of them, Al-Qaeda, Hamas, all of them will tell you they are fighting because of the Palestinian people. Even Obama and Bin Laden. Bin Laden said that he has no problem with America or with the American people, but the American mothers should tell their government that they should stop interfering in the domestic politics of other nations, and that they should address the injustice perpetrated in Palestine. Anytime you commit an act of injustice and you turn your back, you look away, remember that those who are affected never look away. And there are those who see profit in not looking away. Oh, okay, even if these people are not reacting, we can react on their behalf and get some things for ourselves. So at the end of the day, you discover that the same powers claiming to fight terrorism are the powers that actually created terrorism. Look at the various speeches of the present Khalifa of the Ahmadiyya Muslim Jamaat, Hazrat Mirza Masroor Ahmad Ayyadahullah Ta'ala bin Nasr al-Aziz. The Huzur has addressed the EU, the European Union. He has been to the Capitol Hill. He had been everywhere preaching this gospel of peace, drawing the attention of world leaders to a pending and more catastrophic global war if we do not stem the tide now. Huzur has been drawing our attention to this. Do this, do this. Wake up. But people do not wake up. And there is a problem connected with this. And that problem is that more and more young men and women are being converted to those thwarted ideologies. It is true. It is true that injustice was perpetrated in Palestine, and as well as in so many other parts of the world. But should you treat injustice with injustice? Because it is unjust to kill those people who were not offenders. It's unjust to kill them. It is unjust if you are fighting soldiers. We know you are fighting soldiers. But you go and bomb civilian places, you go and bomb supermarkets, you bomb schools, and you still say that is fighting your enemy. You are not fighting your enemy. You are perpetrating acts of wickedness. You are a beast. That's a way to, it's a beast that attacks heartlessly, mindlessly, and stupidly. It is a beast that does that without any reason. Even beasts are better because most beasts only fight when they are wounded. But our own is different. And you see the irony of the whole thing. That very beautiful concept of jihad, where some people, which some scholars have called the sixth pillar of Islam. They call it the sixth pillar of Islam. Jihad. That beautiful concept has been given a very bad name. Has been given a very bad name. Muslims and non-Muslims do not understand the meaning of jihad. You see people telling you jihad means holy war. And you see Muslim groups teaching the same thing. Even here, where we do not have such crisis, you see people reading the Quran upside down. In fact, they read the Quran and you start wondering, do you ever reflect on what you're reading? Quran, or the Quran does not say that you should kill non-Muslims. But the Quran does not say if they slap you in the right cheek, turn the left. The Quran says, defend yourself. But it is wrong for a Muslim to start aggression, under whatever pretext. If anybody fights you with words, you do not reply with gun. If he fights you with words, reply with words. If he writes against you, explain, refute what he says or what he has written in letters, in writing. That is Islam. You have no moral justification for taking the lives of others. But when you are physically invaded, challenged, your life is being threatened, you have the right to defend yourself. Allah does not say a Muslim should not live in the same society with non-Muslims. And Allah does not say it is compulsory for a Muslim or for Muslims to be the rulers of anywhere. It is not true. This is the wrong ideology people have been saying. I've been carrying about. Allah, nowhere in the Quran does it say that Muslims must be the dominant group within a particular place. The whole world is the field of play for Islam. Muslims will be majority in some places, they will be minority in some places. Wherever they are, they must uphold the principle of justice. لا ينهاكم الله
لا ينهاكم الله عن الذين لم يقاتلوكم ولم يخرجوكم من دياركم أن تبروهم وتقسطوا.
Allah does not forbid you from being good and equitable to people who have not fought you because of your religion and who have not driven you out of your dwellings. إنما ينهاكم
الله عن الذين يقاتلونكم ويخرجوكم.
He has only forbidden you from being friends with those who wage war against you because of your religion and who have driven you out of your houses, out of your dwellings, out of your homes and towns. These are the people Allah says we should avoid. But Muslims, Christians, Jews, even pagans should live in harmony wherever they are. Because Allah knows that the whole world will not become Muslims. The whole world will not become Christians. The whole world will not turn to a particular religion. And that is the truth. And we must learn to live together in peace and harmony with mutual respect. And that's why the Uzur, Hayyadahullah Ta'ala bin Nasr al-Aziz, has given us only one solution to it. Just an equitable relationship at all levels, not among nations alone, at the individual level, at the social level, at the national level, at the international level. Justice must dictate our actions. In fact, everything we do must be done in the spirit of justice and equitability. If I want to be respected, I should respect you. If I want you to be friendly towards me, I should extend the hand of friendship towards you. That is.
إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى.
Continue. وينهى
عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون.
Allah says, إن الله ينهى
إن الله
أين الله يأمركم بالعدل والإحسان. إن الله يأمركم بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى. Allah commands you to uphold justice and goodness and giving to kith and kin. وينهى عن الفحشاء and it forbids indecency. It forbids transgression and tyranny.
يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون.
He admonishes you that you may reflect. He admonishes you that you may remember and, wake up to your responsibilities and your duties towards him. Brothers and sisters in Islam, these verses of the Quran, these two verses, it is reported that Abdullah bin Mas'ud radiyallahu anhu, when these verses were revealed, said that if every part of the Quran, if everything in the Quran is destroyed and only these two verses are left behind, it will still be enough, it will be sufficient to organize the world. Because the root cause of all these problems is in these issues identified. Treat people with justice, treat them with goodness, and treat them as your own kin, as your own family. The first level, and that's the lowest level. You do what is right, I do what is right. That is the lowest level. When it becomes, that is justice. It becomes goodness when you do one good and I give you two good. That is goodness. The highest level is to treat you as a kith and kin. When that is the ita idil kurba. When you do not do good at all. Just like a mother does not feed her child because she expects the child to give her something. She feeds her child because she loves that child. So then when you now treat a fellow human being as a brother, a family, a blood relation, whether the person does what is good or bad, whatever that does what is good or not, you do that which is good. That is the Islamic recommendation. It was Ali bin Abi Talib radiyallahu anhu that said, "Ahsinu ila nasi jami'an." Be good to entire mankind. In lam yakunu ikhwanakum fid din fa ikhwanakum min Adam. If they are not your brothers in religion, in faith, they are at least your brothers through Adam alayhi salam. So we should rise. The lowest, the minimum, Islam recommends the minimum is justice. But we should rise beyond ordinary justice to the level of goodness and to the level of treating the entire humanity as kith and kin. And that is the secret behind the establishment of the NGO founded by the Jamaat during the time of the late Uzur, Humanity First. That in all things you place humanity first. Humanity should first be considered. I will not do good to you because you are a Muslim or because you are a Christian. Because you are a Christian, I should treat you because you are a human being. You deserve to be helped. You deserve my assistance, and that's why the Jamaat has touched virtually every part of the world where there is crisis.
الدراسة سنتين، فشفت طالبة دلتني على المعهد وإجيت كتير منيح، يعني استفدت، وهي أول فصل راح أقدمه إن شاء الله.
ممكن تكون ماسكة عبارة عن مصدر الجهد اللي هو البطارية، ممكن تكون ماسكة موزعتات.
وفرت لي المدرسة كتير شغلات، من ضمنها إنه هون ما حسنت أدرس بمدارس عامة، حسنت هون أدرس. هلا أقدم توجيه علمي، يعني الحمد لله عم أطمح لأنه لقدام أخذ منحة، أنه أخذ يعني مجموعة إن شاء الله فوق 95.
بدرس صيدلة بجامعة الزيتونة، اجيت على الأردن قبل سنة ونص، وبحب أشكر الجمعيات الخيرية اللي ساهمت في إنه نقدر نكمل تعليمنا الجامعي، وبخص بالذكر جمعية هيومانيتي فيرست لأنها قدمت لنا منح طلابية وخلتنا نقدر نكمل حلمنا بالدراسة الجامعية.
منظمة الهيومانيتي فيرست تكفلوا في أطفال أيتام ومحتاجين في رسالة تعليم. بارك الله فيهم وإحنا معاهم، والله يقويهم للهيومانيتي فيرست وعلى خطى الحبيب مثل ما بنحكي عليه الصلاة والسلام. إن شاء الله إنه نقدم الرسالة تبعتهم وإحنا معهم.
Where there is crisis within 24 hours, our humanity force will be there. Even in communities where there were no Muslims. In communities where there were, during the tsunami, during the Hurricane Katrina, humanity force was everywhere because that is the secret of universal brotherhood brought by Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So, beloved brothers and sisters, the problem has been in the media representation of Islam and Muslims. But in Yoruba land here in Nigeria, they say you are not there. You query the way they have divided the spoil. You are not there. Oh, Simbe. Only one dada. You are not there. You now query them for distributing it in a particular manner. The fault is yours. This is the Majlis Khuddam-ul-Ahmadiyya. We need more people in the media. More people who understand Islam, who understand how to report diversity, who understand how to report religion, who understand that the human factor always comes to play in religion. That religion has no problem. But people who claim to be religious, people who claim to adhere to certain religious principles, as human beings, they have the freedom to present religion or to redefine religion in accordance with their... To you that most of you will believe. Very few of us have the intellectual and mental resources to sift the good from the bad. They distort information. Recently, somebody posted this www.arasuli.org. They posted a video cataloging different terroristic activities of various Muslim groups all over the world, and the man concluded that terrorism is found only where there are Muslims, that Muslims are the only terrorists in the world. When I saw the video, I responded, but there is a limit to what an individual like me can do. But if there are so many people who understand the challenge there are so many. If every one of us here sees ourselves as tabligh tools, if we see ourselves as soldiers of the truth, teach the truth about Islam and about religions generally to humanity. If we all decide to do it, it will be much, much easier. The media is still being largely controlled by non-Muslim powers, and they distort it. As a trained journalist myself, I know the reasons why I decided to resign and go back into teaching. So it is something we have experienced for generations, and it will still continue. But we must understand the truth. And at our own levels, in interpersonal communication with our friends, with our colleagues, with our comrades, with our neighbors, let people see Islam in us. And whatever happens, Allah says, وَلَا يَجْرِمَنَّكُمْ شَنَآنُ قَوْمٍ عَلَىٰ أَلَّا تَعْدِلُوا اعْدِلُوا هُوَ أَقْرَبُ لِلتَّقْوَىٰ. Do not let your hatred for the people push you into not being just. Be just, that is closer to righteousness. Brothers and sisters in Islam, Islam has nothing to do with terrorism. Jihad is not terrorism. Jihad means to strive, to struggle, to exert oneself in positive ideals. In fact, the Prophet ﷺ is reported to have said, Afdalul jihad kalimatul haqq inda sultanin ja'ir, that the greatest jihad is to speak the truth in the presence of a tyrannical ruler. The Prophet ﷺ once, as a young man came to the Prophet ﷺ, in fact a boy came to the Prophet, and he sought his permission to take part in a war. And the Prophet ﷺ asked him, are your parents still alive? The boy said, yes, my parents are still alive. The Prophet said, Fafi ima fajahid, go and conduct your jihad in the treatment of your parents, in the way you treat your parents. Because the jihad is a concept that is very, very wide, and it is compulsory. You should all strive to do good. Any effort to obey Allah and to avoid what is evil is a kind of jihad. Everything you do to attain the pleasure of Allah is a kind of jihad. The jihad of fighting battles is a conditional jihad, and it only comes into force when Muslims are being threatened. When people wage war against you, you have a right to protect your families, protect your properties. That is Islam. You cannot at any point in time decide, okay, I'm going to fight these people so that they should become Muslims, or because they are not Muslims. No. That is not jihad. That is irhab. That is terrorism. That is terrorism. And terrorism, according to the late Uzur, terrorism, even in the interest of the noblest objective, terrorism, even in the interest of the noblest objectives, is incompatible with the teachings of Islam. So you don't terrorize people because you feel you have a strong case. Look at anybody striving for the restoration of the security of lives and property in Palestine is on a worthy cause, but you don't do that through terrorism, because when you terrorize, is as good as saying you are committing a crime in order to stop another crime. No. You can only wash away a stain by a sponge that is clean. A dirty sponge does not wash away a stain, because it will continue to stain the thing. So there is no, in the final analysis, there will be no difference between you and the person who has committed it. So if a Muslim decides to become a terrorist, if you start killing people, or you even wage war against people because they are not Muslims, you are not a true follower of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Beloved brothers and sisters in Islam, it was Jesus Christ alayhi salam that said in the Bible, I have yet many things to say unto you, but ye cannot bear them now. subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun wa salamun ala al-mursalin walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. adúpẹ́ fún Ọlọ́run. adúpẹ́ fún Ọlọ́run. atọrọ kí a ti gẹrẹ fún anabi wa Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. so kò sẹ́ni tó nífẹ̀ẹ́ anabi ń bí. sallallahu alaihi wasallam. kò sẹ́ni tó nífẹ̀ẹ́ rẹ̀ ń bí.
sallallahu ta'ala ala sallam.
akí Ọlọ́run. ọba àjọkẹ́ ayé ọba àṣàkẹ́ ọ̀run ọba náà tí ó gbà wá láàyè a dúpẹ́ fún lórí gbogbo oore rẹ̀ tó ti ṣe a dá ọpẹ́ lórí gbogbo oore tí ń ṣe lọ́wọ́ a tún dúpẹ́ lórí gbogbo oore tí ààyè ń retí abẹ́ Ọlọ́run kó jọ̀ọ́ kó má ṣàìgbà ọpẹ́ wa a tọrọ ìkẹ́ àti ìgẹ̀rẹ̀ fún kádàlá Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. akíra wa lọ́kùnrin lóbìnrin ọmọdé àti àgbà onílé àti àlejò wípé àlàáfíà Ọlọ́run ìbùkún rẹ̀ àti orí àjẹǹjẹtàn rẹ̀ kó máa bá ẹnìkankan wá gbé. ohun tí mo mọ̀ pé gbogbo yín lẹ gbọ́ mi àbí bẹ́ẹ̀ kọ́ àfẹnté tí bá ń dùn gbogbo yín lẹ gbọ́ mi ṣùgbọ́n ó ṣe é ṣe kó má jẹ́ pé gbogbo yín lẹ gbọ́ mi yé ṣùgbọ́n gbogbo yín lẹ gbọ́ mi ṣá àbárẹ́nté tí ń dùn ni Ọlọ́run àwòsàn adúpẹ́ fún Ọlọ́run. ohun tí wọ́n ní kí n fi bá wa sọ̀rọ̀ òun náà ni rògbòdìyàn ìkó ìpayà bá ní tí wọ́n ń pè ní terrorism. ohun tó ń jẹ́ terrorism náà ni ìkó ìpayà bá àwọn èèyàn ká máa gbin èso ìfòyà sígbà àyà àwọn èèyàn ká sọ àwọn èèyàn sínú ìdààmú sínú hílàhílo. ẹ mọ̀ pé ibi tálàáfíà bá wà láti lè sùn bí wọ́n bá sọ fún wa pé wọ́n fẹ́ ju àdó olóró síbí lálẹ́ yìí kò sẹ́nikẹ́ni nínú wa tó máa wá sí wáàsí yìí o ó dá mi lójú pé state committee tó kó wa jọgọ ò ní wá abẹ́mọ̀ wa ni kò ní wá kódà téèyàn bá wárú ẹ̀ gan Ọlọ́run á tún bá a wí torí wípé Ọlọ́run ní la tulqu bi aidikum ila tahluka ẹ má fọwọ́ ara yín fa ìparun fúnra yín. tọ́ bá sọ wípé àwọn Boko Haram ń bọ̀ níbí wọ́n ń bọ̀ wá da àdúgbò ìrú kò sẹ́ni tí ó sùn abẹ́mọ̀ kò sí ẹni gbogbo àwọn tó sùn sínú yàrá wọn sínú ilé wọn tí wọn bọ́wọ̀ èèyàn ò bá rí ibi tó fẹ́ sá lọ wọn á ṣe vigilante ládùúgbò wọn organize ẹni tí ò ní bọn amúkóńdó dání bó ti ẹ̀jẹ̀ pé a ti mú rẹ́lẹ̀ àti mẹ́rẹ̀ tó bá dàbẹ̀ ní pé tó bá lọ rí pé ẹni tó yọ jágàmù ló gbé wá wàá mú eré yẹn dání. nítorí ìdí èyí dandan kò sí owó tó pọ̀ jù kò sí wàhálà tó pọ̀ jù téèyàn lè ṣe lórí àlàáfíà ṣùgbọ́n káàkiri orígun mẹ́rẹ̀ẹ̀rin àgbáńlá ayé onírúurú rògbòdìyàn ló ń ṣẹlẹ̀ wọn rògbòdìyàn yìí sì pọ̀ débi wípé àfi kéèyàn gbọ́ àgbọ́yé ẹ̀ ni ò ní í ṣe lọ́hùn lára ẹ̀ ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ orílẹ̀-èdè tí mùsùlùmí wà ní oríṣiríṣi ìdààmú tí ń ṣẹlẹ̀ àwọn orílẹ̀-èdè tí ò sí mùsùlùmí náà oríṣiríṣi ìdààmú ló ń ṣẹlẹ̀ ṣùgbọ́n èyí tó ṣe ní láàánú ni wípé àwọn oníròyìn káàkiri àgbáyé àti ti amóhùnmáwòrán àti ti asọ̀rọ̀mágbèsì àti àwọn tìwé ìròyìn gbogbo wọn ni wọ́n máa ń sábà bẹnu àtẹ́lu Islam àti àwọn mùsùlùmí pé àwọn gangan ni wọ́n ń dáná wàhálà náà ń dáná rògbòdìyàn. gẹ́gẹ́ bí ẹlẹ́kọ̀ọ́ ó di dandan káwa gbọ́ ọ̀rọ̀ náà yé jù bẹ́ẹ̀ lọ nítorí wípé ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ àwọn tí ó ń kọ́ ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ ò gbọ́ yé ẹlòmíì sì gbọ́ yé ṣùgbọ́n ìfẹ́ ẹnu nílò ẹlòmíì kan ti wò pé gbogbo ìdọ̀tí Islam ní kẹ́ fi yí lára káàkiri orígun mẹ́rẹ̀ẹ̀rin àgbáńlá ayé kò sí ẹ̀sìn tẹ́dẹ̀ èèyàn ò lò fún ìwà ìpáǹle gbogbo ẹ̀sìn tó wà láyé ló ní tàn wàhálà kan àbí míì táwọn èèyàn dá lórúkọ ẹ̀ ẹ̀sìn yẹn sì kọ́ ló rán wọn níṣẹ́ fún àpẹẹrẹ nígbà tí wọ́n lọ ju àdó olóró sí Jewish Daycare Center ní California ní August 10, 1990 àwọn kìrìsìtẹ́nì náà ṣe àwọn tí wọ́n máa ń pè ní evangelicals ní Amẹ́ríkà ẹnikẹ́ni ò sọ pé ẹ̀sìn kìrìsìtẹ́nì ló ní kàn ṣe bẹ́ẹ̀. nígbà tí wọ́n ju àdó olóró ní Atlanta Olympics ní 1996 àwọn tó ṣe kìrìsìtẹ́nì ni wọ́n, ẹnikẹ́ni ò sọ pé sìn wọn ló rán wọn ṣẹ́. bákan náà nígbà tí ní ọdún 1995 tí wọ́n ju àdó olóró sí Oklahoma Federal Building ní Amẹ́ríkà wọ́n ti pariwo Bin Laden ni wọ́n ti ẹ̀ pariwo ẹ̀ ńgbà yẹn gbogbo newspapers ti gbé jáde pé iṣẹ́ Bin Laden lélẹ̀ kẹ́ń tí ó ṣe é kó tó wá sọ pé ẹ má dààmú ara yín èmi mo ṣe ẹ̀ sì lè rí mi mú bí wọ́n padà rí mú. Timothy McVeigh kìrìsìtẹ́nì ni, kódà kì í tún ṣe kìrìsìtẹ́nì lásán, kìrìsìtẹ́nì tó gbẹ́sìn lórí dáadáa ni, ṣùgbọ́n gbogbo wa la mọ̀ pé kì í ṣẹ̀sìn rẹ̀ ló rán níṣẹ́. bẹ́ẹ̀ náà ló ṣe jẹ́ pé gbogbo àwọn tí ń bá tó ń hùwà jàǹdùkú lórúkọ Islam kọ́ ló rán wọn ṣẹ́. ẹnikẹ́ni tó bá sì nífẹ̀ẹ́ òdodo ó gbọ́dọ̀ mọ̀ wípé gbogbo ẹ̀sìn láyé lọ́mọ àìdé èèyàn láǹfààní àti yí ìtumọ̀ rẹ̀ padà nítorí ìfẹ́ inú wọn. ṣùgbọ́n bá a bá ń pariwo pé ìwà jàǹdùkú ò dáa, ìwà ẹ̀kọ́ ìpayàbá ni ò dáa, níbo ló ti ń bọ̀, kí ló fà á, kí lórí sun ẹ̀. a kàn ń pariwo ní kíní yìí ò dáa, ẹjá gbógun ti terrorism, ẹjá gbógun ti àwọn onípanle, ẹjá gbógun ti àwọn tó ń dá rògbòdìyàn sílẹ̀. ẹnikẹ́ni ò béèrè kíni tó ń sọ̀yàn di akópayàbá ni. a béèrè béèrè yẹn lọ́wọ́ ara wa, nítorí pé a sì béèrè béèrè yẹn ó ń jẹ́ kí gbogbo nǹkan ó ń jẹ́ kó nira fún wa láti dá a dúró. àwọn Lárúbáwá máa ń pa òwe kan, wọ́n ní qala al-jidaru lil-watad lima tashukkuni. ẹsẹ̀ tí ń ròyìn ẹ jókòó ọ̀nà ìyọ̀yìn. qala al-jidaru lil-watad lima tashukkuni. Lárúbáwá ní ògiri ń sọ fún ìṣó, ó ní kí ló dé tó ṣe ń gún mi. wa qala al-watad salman yadukuni. ìṣó sì ní béèrè lọ́wọ́ ẹni tí ń kàn mí, tí ò bá kàn mí èmi náà ò ní gún ẹ. tí kò bá sí nǹkan kan tí ń sọ àwọn èèyàn di ọ̀daràn, àníríwá ọ̀daràn. ìgbà tá a wà ń kékeré lẹ́kọ̀ọ́ yìí, tó bá ti mú olè wọ́n máa ń fẹ̀yìn wọn tàgbá ni, wọ́n á kó wọn lọ sí etí òkun, wọ́n lọ yìnbọn fún wọn ń bẹ̀, orí TV gbogbo wa la máa wò ó. firing squad ló máa ń pè é, gbogbo wa là ń wò ó nígbà yẹn. nígbà tó yá fúnra wa là ń mú wọn, là ń ju táyà sí wọn lọ́rùn, là ń dáná sun wọn. ìgbà tó yá a bẹ̀rẹ̀ sí kí wọ́n mọ́lẹ̀, nígbà tá à ń ṣe vigilante à lù wọ́n pa, síbẹ̀síbẹ̀ olè ò dínkù. kí ló fà á? ohun tó fà á náà ni wípé n ti ń sọ ni di olè ó wà láàrin wa. Khuddam-Shan ẹ jí bọ̀bọ̀ tó ó fẹ̀yìn tì pátápátá gan-an máa ní kẹ́. You are not a khadim now. Sit down. Sit down, please. Ẹ jí ẹni khadim tó talele jókòó yìí. Ẹ lọ ń sùn lónìí. So gẹ́gẹ́ bí n tí à ń bá bọ̀, nǹkan kan ń bẹ láàrin àwùjọ tí ń sọ àwọn èèyàn di jàǹdùkú. nígbàkigbà tí kò bá sí ìdájọ́ òdodo, nígbàkigbà tá a bá ń fi ẹ̀tọ́ àwọn èèyàn dùnyàn, nígbà tí ìwà àbàjẹ́ bá pọ̀ láàrin ìgboro, táwọn olórí tó ń jalè bó ṣe wù wọ́n, tó ń hu ìwà ìbìkítà, a máa sọ àwọn èèyàn di wèrè, a máa sọ àwọn èèyàn dá síwín. mo sọ fún wa níjọ́ kan à ń ṣe ní state meeting báyìí náà ni wọ́n pé gbogbo wa yìí ni ẹ̀mí apààyàn wà lára ẹ̀. Ọlọ́run ẹ̀sìn ẹ̀kọ́ ẹ̀sìn ló máa ń jẹ́ kí ló máa ń tẹ̀ jẹ́jẹ́. àwọn èèyàn ní mo ní òkè, ìgbà yẹn àwọn Buhari ò tí ì débẹ̀, mo ní òkè tálẹ́ni náà nínú yín tí ò tí ì wo tẹlifíṣàn rí kó rí àwọn olóṣèlú wa kó dẹ̀ máa ń pẹ́ bíi kí bọ́ǹbù kankan káàdó olórúkọ dó síbẹ̀ kó dẹ̀ pa gbogbo wọn. mo ní gbogbo yín lẹ ti máa ń rò ó bẹ́ẹ̀. ìgbà míì tí accident bá ṣẹlẹ̀ bí kọ́ mọ president wà nù ẹ̀, apààyàn tí ń bẹ́ nù ẹ̀ ló ń sọ̀rọ̀ ńgbà náà. ẹ̀mí ìpànìyàn yẹn a máa jáde nígbà téèyàn bá rí ìnira tó máa ń fi ẹ̀tọ́ ọ̀yàn dùn yàn. ọmọléèwé tó jáde primary school secondary school ó jáde university kò rí bá ti ṣe kò rọ́nà gbégbà. nígbà tí gbogbo nǹkan dàrú ó wá gbọ́ pé ìwọ òró ń jẹjẹ látàárọ̀ dálẹ́ ó wá ń gbọ́ pé wọ́n ní ẹranko búburú méjì nínú ọgbà ẹran tó wà ní Aso Rock wọ́n ní ọgbà àwọn ẹranko níbẹ̀ wọ́n ní ẹranko búburú wọ́n wá ní 35 mílíọ̀nù lọ́nà mẹ́tàdínlógójì ni wọ́n máa fi bọ́ wọn lọ́jọ́ ní ọdún kan wàá bẹ̀rẹ̀ sí wò pé ìwọ rẹ ni fún ẹ ní 1 million bó ológun ni ọ̀rẹ́ ní fún ẹ ní 35,000 lọ́dún kan ọ̀rẹ́ èèyàn fún ẹ wọ́n ná bọ́jẹ́tì 35 million fọ́wọ́n ẹranko méjì kí ló ń fi ṣe bẹ́ẹ̀ àǹfààní wo ló ń ṣe ìwọ tó láǹfààní tó fẹ́ ṣe fún ìlú kò sétò fún ẹ àbí báwo ló ṣe ní ìyàwó èrè ńgbà tó gbọ́ pé yàtọ̀ sówó oúnjẹ yàtọ̀ sí sálárì wọn tó ń gbà ọ pé a fẹ́ ṣe meeting a máa jẹ bisikíìtì àti tíì 365 million wàá yà wèrè tí ò bá sẹ́mi ọlọ́run wàá kàn wò pé àwọn pípù ẹja pa wọ́n dànù ohun tí ń sọ àwọn èèyàn dìdàkudà rèé ọ̀kan náà àwọn ọ̀jọ̀gbọ́n gẹ̀ẹ́sì John Locke ló sọ pé ó ní gbogbo èèyàn ọ̀daràn tí ń sùn ni bó bá rẹ̀ tó ń tẹ̀ lófin tó hùwà ọmọlúàbí àwùjọ yẹn yìí ń tọ́jú ẹ̀ ṣùgbọ́n jọ́ tí àwùjọ ò bá tọ́jú ẹ̀ mọ́ tó ro gbogbo ẹ̀ pín kí ló ń ṣe láyé tẹ́lẹ̀ akọ̀n kí ló ń dúró ṣe láyé tẹ́lẹ̀ ẹ jẹ́ kí gbogbo wa kúkú máa lọ a bá kó wa dání ọlọ́run ò ní jẹ́ àrìn lọ́jọ́ tẹ́bi ń pa ọ̀nà ọlá pẹ́ lè ṣàmì dáadáa torí pé oríṣiríṣi nǹkan ló ń ṣẹlẹ̀ bó ṣe wá ń ṣẹlẹ̀ ní àárín wa báyìí láàrin wa sáwọn olóṣèlú wa bẹ́ẹ̀ náà ló ṣe ń ṣẹlẹ̀ lágbàáyé tó bá fẹ́ tọ́ àwọn èèyàn dùn àwọn èèyàn wọ́n máa ń dìdàkudà ní ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ àwọn tí à ń pè ní akópayàbá ni tá à ń pè ní jàǹdùkú tá à ń pè lọ́daràn yìí àwọn kì í ríra wọn bẹ́ẹ̀ wọ́n ríra wọn àṣà àjìjàǹgbara kán ríra wọn gẹ́gẹ́ bí àjìjàǹgbara kán ríra wọn gẹ́gẹ́ bí ẹni tí ń jà fómìnira wọ́n ríra wọn gẹ́gẹ́ bí ọ̀daràn torí pé tó o bá bá wọn sọ̀rọ̀ wàá rí wípé ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ á ṣàlàyé fún ẹ ìwọ náà wo nǹkan báyìí wo nǹkan báyìí tán ṣe bí wọ́n ṣe máa ń sọ nìyẹn ṣùgbọ́n àwọn kan wà tó gọ̀ dáadáa bí irú àwọn tó máa ń ní kán fi àdó olóró sára kí wọ́n lọ para wọn nígbà tí kì í ṣe pé làákàyè èèyàn kú pátápátá kẹ́nìkan wá bá mi pé ṣé o fẹ́ bá nàbì jẹ sàárì lọ́la ìwọ tó mọ̀ náà inú Ramadan náà máa ń pè àwọn tó bá bá gbé ṣé wàá ṣínú pẹ̀lú ànábì lọ́la ok ìwọ tó lè bá nàbì owó assalamu alaikum sà ẹ̀yin gọ́gọ́ lọ ṣínú yẹn náà tẹ́ bá dé ẹ̀yin ò láàkì ẹ̀ ní èèyàn á sọ fún mi pé ó máa ń ṣínú pẹ̀lú ànábì lọ́la wà á dẹ̀ níbẹ̀ ni ọ̀nà wo ni àwa ni bọ́ǹbù yìí wàá so mọ́ra wàá blú ara ẹ̀ lọ tó bá ti blú ara ẹ̀ láàrin àwọn èèyàn báyìí wàá bára ẹ̀ lọ́dọ̀ ànábì orí ẹ̀ kú ni kí lóun dúró ṣe látijọ́ yìí òun ni ẹ́jẹ̀ǹtì àbí àwọn kan wà tán àwọn máa ṣe ilé ẹwọ ọmọkùnrin mọ̀tọ́lábà àbí kí ló kọ rẹ̀ kì í ṣe ọmọ ìjàmọ̀ tó bá jẹ́ ọmọ mẹ̀kúnnì ni a sọ pé nítorí ìyà tó jẹ́ ẹ tún wá wo kéèsì eléyìí olówó ni bàbá ẹ̀ wọ́n folówó yẹn bá a lò wọ́n rán nílé ìwé primary school secondary school university lábúrọ́dù ó parí first degree ó parí masters ó dẹ̀ rò pé ó fẹ́ lọ bọ́ ìwọ náà fẹ́ lọ torí pé àwọn kọ́kọ́ kan da ha orí ẹ̀ wọ́n kó ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ pàǹtí síbẹ̀ ìyẹn ló máa jẹ́ kó yé wa wípé ọ̀rọ̀ kìíní ó kọjá pé nǹkan báyìí ló ń tì nǹkan báyìí àwọn kan wà tó jẹ́ wípé wọ́n ń jẹ níbi ìbàjẹ́ yẹn wọ́n sì mọ̀rọ̀ sọ wọ́n lágbèékalẹ̀ ọ̀rọ̀ wọ́n á jẹ́ kó rò wípé òun gangan ni sẹ́kítírì ọlọ́run tó bá gbé kalẹ̀ báyìí wọ́n náà wá wò pé kìíní náà sì dá ẹ fi róbìnrin bìrìn abiyamọ tóun náà sì fi àdó olóró sára tó wá wọ inú iléèwé tọ́wọn ọmọ kéékèèké míì wà tó sì lọ pa gbogbo wọn ó kó wọn dání lọ ló kó wọn dání lọ náà kó àwọn yẹn wọ́n smart kọ́ ló ń ṣàánú níjẹ́ mọ̀ pé kò lè ṣẹlẹ̀ ńlẹ̀ Yorùbá bóyá ńlẹ̀ Haúsá o Yorùbá láìkí ilé ayé bí ẹ̀rí abọ́bakú ọ̀ní ní bàbá mi o ẹni ẹlẹ́ni nígbà tí ó gọ̀ I'm very sure nígbà tó ti wò pé bàbá yìí ti fẹ́ sọdá òun náà ti plan bó ṣe fẹ́ já nígbà ọmọ pé abọ́bakú bó o ibo náà ti ń ṣe yẹn tí kì bá ṣe pé làákàyè ti kú náà ibo náà ti ń ṣe ẹ wá sọ pé àṣà ni àṣà òṣìwò nìyẹn bàbá tí ó dẹ̀ gọ̀ ó bá àwọn ọjà abọ́bakú gbogbo ẹ sọ pé abọ́bakú gbogbo ìyà tí gbogbo ìgbádùn tó bá ń jẹ lòun náà máa jẹ ìgbà tí Ọlọ́run má jẹ́ kí mo gun bàbá smart burúkú ó bá wọn jẹ gbogbo ẹ̀ bóyá o máa ń gbé international passport ẹ̀ káàkiri ni pé ọjọ́ tí kìíní bá ṣẹlẹ̀ báyìí máa ká ńlẹ̀ ni ó sì ka mọ́rọ̀ kan máa lè pé padà ní ìjọba wọ́n máa ń fògùn pé wọ́n padà àwọn ọ̀rúnmọ̀lẹ̀ wọn ò lè sọdá ògùn ṣùẹ́ jẹ́mọ̀ kéèyàn ìbáwo ló ṣe máa kàn dé ronú pé èyí tó kù ni pé mo fẹ́ lọ para mi ṣé Yorùbá máa ń sábà parẹ́ Yorùbá dààmú gan gidi gan ni o tẹ bá rí ẹlòmíì tó bá fi okùn sí ọrùn kó n fẹ́ pokùn so báyìí fúnra ẹ gidi yóò dẹrù ló bá ẹ bá mi wọ́n náà mi. torí ikú kò easy fa bẹ́ẹ̀ tó wọn kọ́ wà tó jẹ́ pé kò ní rò ó lẹ́mí. wọ́n máa ń pè kíní kan ní VX nerve gas 4 tons mẹ́rin péré ó lè destroy gbogbo ilé ayé. America nìkan ní 100 tons. Russia ní 20 tons. And only 4 tons can destroy the whole world. US has 100 tons. Russia has 20 tons. Only God knows which other nations have developed it. The VX nerve gas. So ẹ mọ̀ pé bẹ́ẹ̀ tí ẹ̀ wá dáná bẹ́ẹ̀ tí ẹ̀ wá tí ì lọ fi jà kẹ́kàn lọ ibi tẹ́ stọ̀ ẹ̀ sí kẹ́nìkan lọ ju àdó olóró lẹ̀ ń bẹ̀ gbìm kó ṣí ilẹ̀ ẹ̀ palẹ̀ ayé ran. Ṣùgbọ́n sọ́mọ̀ ń yàbọ̀ ni o. Wá ti mọ̀ pé tó kọ́lọ́ jẹ́ ká láìláìláìláìláìláì. Torí pé ẹ mọ̀ pé nǹkan tó jẹ́ pé atẹ́gùn ní ń bá rìn tó bá mẹ́rẹ́ pé jẹ́ kí n tú dànù kí n tó pàdé kó má lè mi bá ibo la ò ní má tẹ́ ò ní mí sí mú mọ́ ni tó bá ti mí ó ti wọlé ẹ̀sùn síbẹ̀ tó wá ibi tó. Ẹ bẹ̀rẹ̀ sí rò pé àsọpọ̀ à ń wá àlàáfíà nǹkan ọ̀jà là ń ṣe lójoojúmọ́ à ń wá àlàáfíà and we produce more weapons. alẹ́ àfẹ́kógun ṣẹlẹ̀ ojoojúmọ́ ohun ìjà wọ́n bá ti tọ́ra wọn wọ́n ti máa ń tọ́ra wa púpọ̀ gan wọ́n á ní kàn ṣe nuclear disarmament ohun tó jẹ́ bẹ́ẹ̀ ni pé gbogbo àwọn ohun ìjà olóró yẹn ẹ jẹ́ kí ká bà gbogbo ẹ̀ jẹ́ ẹ mọ̀ nǹkan táwọn wá ṣe kálukú wá wá àwọn ohun ìjà olóró àwọn èyí tó ti bàjẹ́ àwọn èyí tí ò dáa mọ́ àwọn àtijọ́ tí ò wúlò púpọ̀ á bàjẹ́ á wá fi àwọn tuntun tó burú yẹn á fi ilẹ̀ wọ́n wá ní ara táwọn fi ń jẹ́ kálàfíà wà nílé ayé nìyẹn pé nítorí tẹ́ni tó bá fẹ́ bà nǹkan jẹ́ tó bá ti rí pé àwọn ní á dúró ìròrí yẹn ni wọ́n fi sọ lé ayé di tó dà ṣùgbọ́n ọ̀nà àbáyọ ẹyọ kan tí Khalifa sọ fún wa òun náà ni ká padà síbi ìdájọ́ òdodo ká padà síbi ẹ̀tọ́ ìṣedéédé tó o bá ṣe déédé pẹ̀lú mi ì lè ṣe dáadáa sí ẹ kò ṣeé ṣe o ṣe déédé pẹ̀lú mi kò sí bí màá ṣe dáadáa sí ẹ. Gbogbo àwọn rògbòdìyàn tí ń ṣẹlẹ̀ káàkiri àgbáńlá ayé àwọn tó dá a sílẹ̀ àwíjàre ẹyọ kan ni wọ́n máa ń gbé kalẹ̀ òun náà ni rògbòdìyàn orílẹ̀-èdè Palestine. Wọ́n ní àbòsí tí wọ́n ṣe táwọn ìjọba Gẹ̀ẹ́sì ìjọba Amẹ́ríkà àti gbogbo àwọn alágbára àgbáyé àti orílẹ̀-èdè Israel àbòsí tí wọ́n ṣe sí àwọn Palestine ló ń jẹ́ káwọn máa dalé ayé rú. Ó bá làákàyè mu kò bá làákàyè mu àti jẹ́ kí wọ́n rí àwáwí. Gbogbo wa la mọ̀ pé ní tòótọ́ wọ́n ṣàbòsí sí wọn àbòsí tó tóbi gan tó jẹ́ pé àfi Ọlọ́run nìkan ló mọ bóun ó ti padà dájọ́ yẹn. Ṣùgbọ́n gbogbo wọn náà ń padà ń rì adìẹ bà lókun lọ́rọ̀ wọn àrò orókùn kó rádìẹ àwọn náà ń rí wàhálà lójoojúmọ́ ẹ wo tó bá World Trade Center ẹni tó bá débẹ̀ yẹn rí mo débẹ̀ rí so mo rí ní New York ẹni tó bá dé World Trade Center wàá gbé títóbi fọ́lọ́hun pé bí kéèyàn kan sì wá bí wọ́n fi bàálù rọ́ọ̀lù bẹ̀ yẹn tí wọ́n sì ti kó àdó olóró sínú ẹ̀ building ẹyọ kan tó lè gbà lẹ́ẹ̀kan ó lè gba àwọn èèyàn tó lé ní 500,000 débi pé in fact ṣe mọ̀ pé ọmọ Nàìjíríà pàápàá jùlọ Yorùbá aríkúyẹrí ni mo lọ kí ìkọ́nà àwọn jọmọ́ wa New York ló náà ń gbé ní Manhattan kò jìnnà sí World Trade Center Pakistani ni mo wá lọ kí ìgbàdá dé ilé ẹ̀ ó wà ní floor tó ń wà floor 65 ok mo ní gbogbo ń tà fẹ́ sọjá sọ ń bí báyìí èmi ò lọ síbẹ̀ yẹn ó ní kí ló dé mo náà wá ayé tí ò rí mi mú Nàìjíríà ṣé mi nìkan tí wà ó ní Yorùbá mo sọ ó wá rẹ̀ ló ní kí mo wí mo ní kò lè yí ẹ sọ máa wù lẹ́jẹ̀ tú. pé floor 65 mo ní no èmi ò lè lọ síbẹ̀ I can't go there mo já jókòó sísàlẹ̀ yẹn ó lọ kó gbogbo files yẹn wọ́n gbé go lift lọ ó ní kí n wá àmú nínú ó ní kí n wá lọ jẹun lókè mo ní màá rọ oúnjẹ 65 kó jẹ́ pé gbà tí mo débẹ̀ lẹ́nìkan máa gbé plane òṣìkọ́ mọ̀ fóun bọ̀ wá dábẹ̀rù àwọn èèyàn wá rẹ̀ ibi táwọn màámi ti mú nìyẹn so nítorí ìdí èyí àfi kí ẹni tó bá ti rí gbogbo àwọn rògbòdìyàn oríṣiríṣi a mọ̀ wípé nítòótọ́ àwọn tí wọ́n ń balẹ̀ ayé jẹ́ yẹn nítòótọ́ ohun tó ń ṣe ò dáa ṣùgbọ́n kò yẹ ká fún wọn láǹfààní àti rí àròjàre gbogbo àìṣẹ̀tọ́ tí wọ́n ṣe ní Palestine tí wọ́n gbàlú wọn àwọn alágbára alẹ́ ayé gba ilẹ̀ mọ́ wọn lọ́wọ́ ni kẹ́nikẹ́ni má sọ pé àwọn jọ ní ìlú torí nǹkan táwọn Yahudi táwọn Jews máa ń sọ ni pé Ọlọ́run ló ṣe ìlérí ìlú Canaan fún àwọn bàbá àwọn báwo ló ṣe máa sọ fún mi pé Ọlọ́run sọ fún bàbá yín pé òun fún nílùú mi ilẹ̀ mi àbí ilé mi kí ní lè ṣe kó wá dé ó hàn sọ fún ó mọ̀ pé má kọ̀ọ̀kan ọlọ́pàá ni pé ẹ wá gbé máa ń gbé lọ́sọ̀gbà wèrè ó dàbí pé ó ní ṣòro kò dé ṣe kò ní ilé yìí bàbá mi sọ fún mi pé Ọlọ́run sọ fún òun wípé òun máa jogún ẹ̀ máa wò pé ẹ wà ókè ṣá ojú tí wọ́n fi ń bí ohun tí wọ́n ṣe bó ti rí nìyẹn irú ẹ̀ náà ni òun ló fà á tí Arthur Koestler àtẹ̀jáde tí aṣojú ìjọba Gẹ̀ẹ́sì ní Palestine ní 1918 Lord Balfour àtẹ̀jáde tó tẹ̀jáde nígbà yẹn òun náà nìyẹn Arthur Koestler ní àtẹ̀jáde yìí ó ní ó jẹ́ àtẹ̀jáde kan tí orílẹ̀-èdè kan ń ṣe ìlérí fún orílẹ̀-èdè kejì bóun á fún un ní ilẹ̀ orílẹ̀-èdè kẹta. Only the Balfour Declaration is a document in which one nation promises to another nation the country of a third nation. Orílẹ̀-èdè ó ní àtẹ̀jáde yìí jẹ́ àtẹ̀jáde tí orílẹ̀-èdè kan ṣe ìlérí fún orílẹ̀-èdè kejì pé a fún ẹ ní ilẹ̀ orílẹ̀-èdè kẹta. Bà gbogbo nǹkan jẹ́ títí dé ní ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ ọmọ Palestinian pàápàá jùlọ àwọn tó wà ní refugee camps káàkiri ẹlòmíì ò inú refugee camp inú bí ìsádi yẹn náà ni bàbá àti ìyá ẹ̀ ti mọ́ra wọn kò mọ́lé mi inú refugee camp yẹn náà ti lóyún ẹ̀ náà ti bí lòun náà dàgbà sí lòun náà ti níyàwó irú wọn lè ní kọ́ máa ní ẹ̀hónú kọ́ máa ní kùnsínú sọ̀wọ́n ìjọba àgbáyé kọ́ máa rẹ̀ yín kọ́ tẹ wàá nù dẹ̀ra pé àwa ń sọ́fà yín dẹ̀ wàá nù dẹ̀ra ọlọ́mọ dá wà ńlá ká èrú wọ́n lè bẹ̀rẹ̀ sí dá wàhálà alẹ́ òun ló di dandan kí ká padà sí bí ẹ̀kọ́ Islam kí ni Islam gbé kalẹ̀ ká ṣe gbogbo nǹkan lórí déédéé lórí ẹ̀tọ́ ọlọ́run ni ẹ má jẹ́ kí ìkórìíra àwọn èèyàn wala yajrimannakum shana'anu qawmin ala alla ta'dilu ẹ má jẹ́ kí ìkórìíra àwọn èèyàn kó dí yín lọ́wọ́ àti ṣẹ̀tọ́ àti ṣe déédéé pẹ̀lú wọn ẹ ṣẹ̀tọ́ ẹ ṣe déédéé ẹ ṣe ìdájọ́ òdodo eléyìí ló súnmọ́ bẹ̀rù ọlọ́run jùlọ eléyìí lọ́ba àlékèọlá sọ nínú Quran ọba àlékèọlá sọ fún wa ayat kútúbà ẹlẹ́ẹ̀kejì tí gbogbo wa ń kà ní gbogbo tá a máa ń gbọ́ lọ gbogbo
wípé àwọn àìfẹ́ kí wọ́n dákẹ́ mọ́ òótọ́ sí kò ṣùgbọ́n bí tílé òkúrí àdúgbò fún ìgbàláyé wọn bá tó bí ìmọ̀ pẹ́sà.
Ìbéèrè mi ò ń ṣe kò lọ́dá lórí wáàsí fún alálẹ̀, kò ń ṣe lórí tọ́pìkà lẹ́gbọ̀n ló ti ń gbé ní ló ti pẹ́ dára náà tí mo ti nígbà tó máa máa jẹ́ àmì ìbéèrè mi ni pé tàbílẹ́nu ọjọ́ mẹ́ta kan bí mo fi tó mo jẹ́ ara àmọ́jọ Ahmadiyya mo ti gbọ́ oríṣiríṣi pa àwọn àlàyé nípa ìwà wà láyé náà máa jẹ́ alẹ́ sálásásálá pa orí láti ní àwọn oríṣiríṣi ẹ̀rí ìyàkọ́kan tó máa ń wú mi lójú òun náà nípa ọ̀rọ̀ Dajjal lóko mọ̀ pé nínú Ahmadiyya tó bá ní kọ́mọ ìgbèrí kan kó wá ṣàlàyé pa ìwà sáì má máa dìbò wọn àti wá rìn kan sọ lẹ́sìn tèmi náà débẹ̀ yìí mo lè ẹni tó máa ṣe lábá ní kájọ ṣe ìyànjú bí ìlànàmọ̀lẹ́ láìpẹ́ nípa wọn ní mọ́tò látàjà pé bàbá ní kí ẹ̀ tó wá ń pé àmọ̀ pé tó tọ́ pálíbù ni pé ẹ tó wá máa wà bẹ̀rẹ̀ àwọn bí lè pé tó bá ṣàfihàn wá pé ó máa wà nǹkan ọmọ fi yàn àtàbáwo náà àwọn mọ́tò àti ìsìn náà bí káàrẹ́lá mọ́mọ́ sọ́dọ̀ bá wọn sọ́dọ̀ bó ṣe náà rí ìṣẹ̀ sọ́dọ̀ bá wọn sọ́dọ̀ so ó máa ń jẹ́ kí n máa wà fún kí ẹ̀jẹ̀ bá àṣàlàyé
ọ̀gbẹ́ni onídàájálẹ ẹ sọ fún àwọn missionaries tó wà ní àárín Majlis kan explain ní Dajjal because akọ̀jókòó bíbá ẹni ó ṣeé ṣe káwọn ẹlòmíì má sùn nù lẹ́kọ̀ọ́ máa gbọ́ wa ẹni tí ó sì mọ̀ nípa Dajjal ó kàn máa wà confused ni ọ̀rọ̀ yẹn á dàrú mọ́ lójú nítorí pé kì í ṣe something tí kò ń ṣe tí mo treat so ó lè má gbọ́ yé. Concerning the last question. Oh, okay. Concerning the last question asked by Ibrahim, because of the sensitivity of the issue, I have deliberately left out some details. The challenge is far, far greater than what we have said. The former British Prime Minister, Benjamin Disraeli, is reported to have said that the powers that control the affairs of the world are far, far different from what people suppose, and they are hidden from the public sphere. So many things are happening, and so many things will still happen, that it's not as if Israel will slow down. Israel will not slow down. It is not as if we can avert a third world war. We can only slow it down. Let me tell you the simple truth. Why do I say this? Hazrat Imam Mahdi alayhi salam is reported to have said that Allah told him, Allah revealed to him that there will be 3 world wars. And you know he died before the First World War. He died long before the First World War. He said, Allah told him that 3 world wars will be fought. He spoke about the First World War that will center around the Tsar of Russia and the Bolsheviks revolution and the Mensheviks. He said that on that day, the Tsar will be in a pitiable condition. And on the day the war began, the Tsar was humiliated. The Prophet ﷺ never met the Tsar of Russia. He only repeated what was revealed unto him. And he said the Second World War was going to be greater than the First World War, and it was. And he said a much greater war of far-reaching dimensions will be fought, and that will be the Third World War. All the superpowers will collapse, and that Russia will be the first nation to rise on the ruin of that devastating catastrophe. And Russia will be the first nation to embrace Islam. Hazrat Masih Maud alayhi salam made this before the beginning of the last century. And the first two world wars have come to pass. So let nobody fool himself or herself that there's not going to be a third world war. But it can be slowed down. You can shift it. More than enough things have happened that will have caused a third world war. In fact, all the things that happened in the last century were enough, more than enough, to cause another global war. But because there were voices of wisdom here and there, repelling such urges in people, it has been shifted, it has been postponed. For how long, I do not know. Don't forget that much earlier, before the Prophet ﷺ, Nostradamus had also foretold the occurrence of 3 world wars. He also foretold that he also saw in his visions as a Christian monk that there will be 3 world wars. He also gave his own description. Though the descriptions were different from that of the promised Messiah alayhi salam, but it was still with enough precision. So brothers and sisters, we can only shift it, so that several generations will still live on earth peacefully. But one day, because man is a beast, because man is an animal, one day someone will just unleash terror on the whole mankind by uniting the members of discord that will eventually lead to the Third World War. Israel, I said, the Muslim groups that are engaged in terrorism use the Palestinian crisis as their justification for their crimes. I'm not saying that is the only reason. You see, I am not sure it is right for me to discuss the other aspects here. I'm not sure it is right. But there are other things, so many other things involved. If you have taken the pains to pursue or to follow what is called the New World Order principle, if you follow the history of those groups and nations and individuals who have been calling for a new world order, you will know that there are more powerful hands behind the screen directing the affairs of this world and pushing it towards destruction. let me mention the aspect with which you should be familiar. In the year of the American Declaration of Independence, do you know the year? 1776. In that same year, in fact, in the same month, when the Declaration of Independence, the American Declaration of Independence took place, a secret society was established in Germany by a professor called Adam Weishaupt. Adam Weishaupt founded a secret society that has a global plan of ruling the entire world. It was called the Order of Illuminati. That order expanded, and with time, it had spread its tentacles all over the world. Everybody understood it to be a conspiracy against religion, conspiracy against humanity. So in France, they waged war against them, they suppressed them, and everybody thought it was all over. But they started again as the New Age movement. From the New Age movement, it became the Brotherhood. From the Brotherhood, it became the family. Now it is called CFR, the Council on Foreign Relations. The Council on Foreign Relations is the power that is involved, in fact, that is toying with the world now. Sometimes last month I received a call from the U.S. consulate that I was to meet someone for a dinner at the Lagos Sheraton, a member of the CFR. I have his card here. Yes, this is Council of Foreign Relations, Gerard Wood. When he came, he had written certain things about Islam. The embassy gave me the link and asked me to respond to those things he wrote about Islam. So when I met him, I told him my views about what he wrote. He was actually, in that article, he was talking about the incidents in Iran. In Iraq, he met some of the leaders of ISIS and discussed with them. And, he interviewed them and came to the conclusion, which he published in the Washington Post, came to the conclusion that it is wrong for people to say that the members of ISIS were not Muslims. That in fact they were Muslims and they were pursuing an Islamic agenda. I told him it was wrong. I told him you could say they were distorting the teachings of Islam, but don't say that they were pursuing an Islamic agenda. And I told him that you belong to the CFR. I incidentally know certain things about the CFR. He paused, and the cultural officer of the U.S. consulate, who was with us, stopped. I said, okay, would you like to listen to an interview by Hillary Clinton? It's on my phone, so I played the interview. Asked him, listen to this. He said he disagreed with what Hillary Clinton said. Because Hillary Clinton said that it was the American government that started Al-Qaeda. He said what we are funding today. Let me see. I could play it.
lost time. So what you need to know tonight is heavy. Our government is bombing sites around the world in an ongoing war with Al-Qaeda. In Iraq, where Al-Qaeda had no presence before the U.S. war, Al-Qaeda is now thriving. The same Al-Qaeda, yes, created by the U.S. government in order to harm the Soviets. And today, at least 13,000 civilians in Afghanistan are dead as a result of that war with Al-Qaeda. So with all respect to Ms. Fitzgerald from the Irish Times, this is not propaganda. Rather, it is a question that every American should be demanding answers on from Congress and from this president. Why are we giving Al-Qaeda fighters money and weapons to overthrow yet another government in the Middle East? Today, our government claims they're freeing the people of Syria. Tomorrow, if history tells us anything, we will be killing and wounding civilians in airstrikes and then referring to them as collateral damage in a war with an enemy who we brought to power.
No, get on.
Is the United States supporting Al-Qaeda in Syria? The answer is yes. Fact number one, there is no question that Al-Qaeda fighters are part of the opposition forces attempting to overthrow Syria's government. Fact number two, the creation of Al-Qaeda wasn't Islamic fundamentalism. It was the CIA. The Mujahideen was created by the CIA to cause problems for the Soviets. And you might say that's crazy talk, right? Here's Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. To be fair, we had helped to create the problem we're now fighting. How? Because when the Soviet Union invaded Afghanistan, we had this brilliant idea that we were going to come to Pakistan and create a force of Mujahideen, equip them with Stinger missiles and everything else to go after the Soviets inside Afghanistan.
So I told him, the CFR knows how to stop the war in Syria. They know how to stop it in Iraq, because America itself is helpless against the CFR. It is the CFR that controls the U.S., not the other way around. When people say America is responsible for this, I just laugh. They program the U.S., they control them. And I've been to the office of the CFR. If you in New York, the office of the United Nations is here. On top of that, on top of the UN office, you have the CFR office. Because the United Nations itself is in their pockets. And years ago, in 1776, Adam Weishaupt said that in order to establish the Illuminati agenda, 1 billion people have to be killed. And they have put in place strategies to start war in different parts of the world until that target is reached. Brothers and sisters, there are so many things I cannot tell you. And some are just too dangerous to talk about. But the fact is, you need to understand what is happening. When you understand what is happening, you at least know how to deal with people around you. Teach people the message of love. That is stronger than anything. When we spread love, even those who were supposed to be detractors and enemies will start changing. You cannot match them with strategies. Forget about it. In 2013, I was in the U.S. and at the University of Massachusetts in Boston, and there was a conference going on, Africa in the next 50 years. I entered into the hall. No single black man was there. In Africa, we have not started talking about what we will be doing in the next 5 minutes. These people are talking about what will happen in Africa in the next 50 years. They will put together committees. They will write books on various fields. These books will find their ways into our curriculum. We will start reading them, and we will pattern our society in accordance with what we have read. They program us. So you can't beat that. You can't beat that. Look at the Muslim world. My brother spoke about Shia, Sunni. There is nothing like Shia, Sunni crisis. Forget about it. The Muslim world is not divided into Shiites and Sunnis. That is a political division by the West to manipulate us. Okay, Shia, Sunni, where do we fall as Ahmadis? The Sunnis say we are not Muslims. So the Sunnis will not agree that we are Sunnis. And we have no affinity with the Shiites. So where are we? So it's pure political. There is nothing called Shia, Sunni, whatever. These are political games. Things are happening that you will be shocked, too shocked to know that leaders in the Muslim world have sold out to the CFR. Yes. In fact, the rulers of Saudi Arabia are in the pockets of the CFR. And that's why Muslims will never have leaders wherever they are, unless you have not. There's no Saudi trained scholar there. When you come together and you say you are doing something for Muslim unity, different Muslim groups, a Saudi trained scholar, because there is an agenda that they must disunite you, so that you won't be able to plan anything that will confront their masters. So when you come together and we are discussing, maybe I, a Tijani, a Qadriya, we are together talking, trying to, what do we do? And he comes around and says, you are kuffar. We will start fighting him. And that discussion ends. In this interview by Hillary Clinton said the American government brought together the Mujahideen and they taught them the Wahhabi brand of Islam. The Islam that is practiced in Saudi Arabia. So we give them the Wahhabi brand of Islam because they know that it's an intolerant brand of Islam. It's an interpretation of Islam that does not tolerate any other disagreeing view. So it's so complex. If we cannot change anything up there, we can change ourselves, and we can attempt to change the people around us. If you refuse to be manipulated, some of us have had offers here and there. But if you have been intellectually prepared for some of these things, you will know, you will see behind the screen. They come to you, they tell you they want to do this. And you must, of course, be prepared to embrace the life of poverty, because you will be deprived. You will not have access to those things that you really deserve. So we do not have any power, but by following the peaceful means, educate the people and reform ourselves. Gradually, people are coming out. People are coming out to look at, there's this, David Livingstone wrote a book, Terrorism and Illuminati, a 3,000-year history. It's on my phone and I can give you. It's a full... Livingstone wrote this book. He had worked for the government, he had worked for the various agencies. He stumbled upon these facts and he decided to stop. His life is in danger. He's been haunted everywhere. But he wrote the book and put it in circulation. I have it, I can share that with you. Read it. You will see the history of these secret societies and how they have attempted to dominate the world and the current names these structures bear today. I don't think I should speak more than this. Assalamu alaikum. Jẹ́ ká gba ọ̀gbọ́n yẹn, ó máa ń kọ́ máa lọ.
Bákan náà, a dúpẹ́ lọ́wọ́ gbogbo àwọn tí a fi ti sùúrù lókun láti àárọ̀ láti bọ̀ wọn náà, àtọ́dọ̀ àwọn obìnrin àtọ́dọ̀ àwọn ọkùnrin nígbà tí ọlọ́run kò lè fi èèmọ̀ àtọ̀pẹ́. We appreciate our fathers from Cameroon also, and we pray that the Almighty Allah return back safely to your destination.
Amen. After coming back from Kodia. After returning from Kodia.
We are allowed to get to safely to Kodia.
Amen.
The closing prayer, we want to have a closing prayer from our daddy, our national president of Ahmadiyya Cameroon, the president of Al-Haji Bala Yusuf, Ibrahim Soni.
Bismillah. Amen. Amen.